Good evening. Welcome to the June 11th meeting of the Aiken City Council. Before we start on our agenda, we have one bit of business to attend to. Council left our work session in executive session, so this time I'd like to entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilman Dewar, thank you. Mr. Waltz is second, thank you. All those in favor of coming out of executive session at this time, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous, thank you. And with that, good evening. Thank you for coming to our meeting tonight. With the call to order, first of all, we'll have an invocation, which will be followed by the pledge. The pledge, I'm going to ask Chief Barranco to. I'm going to do the invocation. This weekend, we lost one of our own in the city, Mr. Kevin Turner, who was a maintenance worker with Parks and Rec. And we certainly mourn that loss for the department and his family and all the friends. I'm going to ask at this time if our city manager would maybe tell us a little bit about Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is with deep sadness I do announce or reiterate what the mayor said, that we lost one of our valued city employees. Kevin passed away unexpectedly overnight last night, and he had tomorrow, ironically, would have been his 1-year anniversary with the city. Under his employment, and we do send our thoughts and our prayers and our deepest sympathies to his family. He left behind his parents and his wife and 2 young children, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. With that, if you're so inclined to please rise as we do our invocation. I'm going to start with a moment of silence. Most gracious Father, we come to you tonight with Kevin on our hearts. We just pray, Lord, that you would touch his family and friends, those in our city who worked with him. We just pray that you would touch that grieving, Father, and that you would just let them know that we're remembering him and that they're in our thoughts. Father, we pray that your hand would be with us tonight as we make decisions that are pertinent to our city. Please give us the wisdom that we ask for, Lord, to give direction and to make the best decisions that we can. We ask that this meeting would be pleasing to you and that all that is said and all that is done. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Chief, good evening.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What did you do here? Thank you, Chief. I'd like to read the guidelines of our meeting at this time. Meetings are public forums in which many opinions are expressed and the business of the city must be conducted. As such, disciplined, honorable, and professional decorum is paramount. Courteous and respectful communication is expected. During public hearing, all questions and statements from the public shall be directed to the chair. If you wish to speak, raise your hand and I will certainly recognize you. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. In order to allow an opportunity for everyone who wishes to address council, speakers should limit their comments to the subject being discussed. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes to address an issue and may only address an issue once unless questions from council are posed to the speaker. And with that, we'll move down to additions and deletions to the agenda. And I would like to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Gail Diggs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Would there be none? I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilman Girardeau. All those in favor of the agenda as presented? And that's unanimous. Thank you. The minutes were given to council for their review before the meeting. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I so move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Gregory. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented?
I'm abstaining. I wasn't at a couple of meetings.
So that's unanimous with one abstention.
Watching on TV doesn't count.
Very good. Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you.
Moving down the agenda to that section, presentations. Number one, this is a presentation regarding the Aiken Regional Airport economic impact. And I'd like to ask City Manager Beedenbaugh.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I am delighted to welcome James Stevens here. Mr. Stevens we're honored to have him. He is the Executive Director of the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission. So we have a state agency head here tonight to give a presentation on the economic impact report of the Aiken Regional Airport. Mr. Bud Coward, who lives here in Aiken and many of us know, visited me several months ago and brought this excellent report of this underrated jewel that we have. And I want to thank Mr. Coward for arranging for Mr. Stevens to be here. And also I want to acknowledge members of our General Aviation Commission that are here. If they could stand, we appreciate all the work they do. And I see the chairman, Mr. Zipper Robbins, and Butch Robertson, and Carolyn McPherson, and Dick Funkhauser here. So we have a quorum, and they can meet when we're done. But anyway, we're honored to have them here. And Mr. Stevens, thank you so much for coming.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you very much for the time tonight that you've given me. Stuart, thank you for reaching out to Bud and getting the invitation going and the conversation going about presenting this to your council. What we're going to talk about tonight is information that I feel is valuable to you all as owners of one of our local airports here in South Carolina. Joy told me I had 30 minutes, so I'm going to try to keep it within that. No, just kidding.
That's what Joy told you.
Tonight, as Stuart mentioned, we're going to talk about the economic impact of your local airport. Every 10 years or so, the state looks at our system of airports here in South Carolina. We have 57 publicly owned public use airports here in South Carolina. Of those 57, 6 are commercial service airports, and the rest are general aviation airports like what you have here actually it's in the county, but as what you own by the city of Aiken out at your local airport. So approximately every 10 years, we look at our system. We look at the value of our system, the economic impact of our system. We do a scorecard, basically, of our system. We look at overall, how are we doing within the system that we have, within the transportation infrastructure that we have. We set goals, we set priorities among our airports. And so we have just finished that. We took about 18 months to do that study this past year, and we rolled out those findings in February. And normally I'll see Stuart at our airports conference. Didn't get to see him this year because I know he had a lot going on, but we did roll this out then. So the information is still fresh, still pertinent to what you all have going on here in Aiken. I want to start first with our economic impact so that I can let you know how we did our economic impact study and how you ranked here in South Carolina. What we looked at was employment, payroll, and spending for direct, indirect, and then total economic output for the state as a whole. But to do that, we had to look at each airport specifically. So I'm going to give you a little high-level overview of the state as a whole and then dig down into Aiken, the city of Aiken's information at the Aiken Regional Airport. The 5 activity centers that we looked at within each one of those, the payroll, the spending, those types of things, we looked at airport management. So what does it take to run your airport? Full-time, part-time, seasonal, all those things, all the jobs that are supported at or by those that come and go from your airport. We looked at airport tenants. We looked at all the businesses that provide aviation services. So that might be Mike Laver, who's here with the FBO there out at the Aiken Regional Airport. It might be a flight department that's based here. That's a corporate flight entity, and they are at the airport just because that's the services that they need and what they need from you as a community on their transportation needs. We looked at capital investment, and to do this, we looked over the past 5 or 6 years of capital investments that were made out at each airport, and we looked at, again, across the whole state, what kind of investments are being made. Commercial visitor spending, which is not pertinent to you all here in Aiken, and then general aviation visitor spending, which is. Total economic impacts. Overall, the statewide results are as follows. We have over 122,000 jobs that are supported through our airports. Again, at or through our airports. So jobs on airports, jobs off airports that are supported by those that visit, those that come and go from our airports, those capital investments that are made, those construction jobs that are done at the airport. Over 122,000 jobs are supported, and in these again are estimations, because some of what we had to do was look at indirect, and that required looking at a national utilized model called M-Plan to help us look at some of these numbers and make projections. Those jobs represent $4.8 billion in payroll. Those jobs go on to spend $11.5 billion annually for a total of $16.3 billion across the state of South Carolina annually, again, in and through our airports. This is the information that everybody's normally, they want to see, is what does your local airport look like? So we estimated that there were, and I hope that you have these in your presentations in a readable format, because sometimes when these print out, they're not that great. But there are 178 jobs that are supported by your airport that you have. Of those jobs, it represents $5.2 million annually in payroll. Spending is estimated at 19.7 almost annually million, and then 24 million annually is the economic impact of your local airport. And I'll tell you this right now, Stuart can confirm this, it doesn't cost that to run and to operate your airport. Moving on to our system plan. So what do we look at when we look at all of our airports across the state? How do we gauge how they're doing within the roles that they play and the services that they offer? How are they doing? Are we as a state agency meeting the needs of those airports and the system in which they play, the roles in which they play in that system? So as we looked at the 57 airports, not only did we look again at the economics, we looked at the roles that they play. And I'm sorry, I had to keep looking to make sure I'm pushing the button correctly. We looked at current infrastructure. We looked at projected aviation demand, market area characteristics, which obviously vary widely across the state in those 57 airports that we have. Gaps and redundancies within our system. We looked at, okay, how does Aiken compare to those neighboring airports? What are the roles that Aiken plays compared to others around you? Then we looked at the FAA. How does the FAA categorize the Aiken Regional Airport? And the categorization from the state, does it match, does it model, does it mirror the role that the FAA plays? Because we do try to make sure that they are somewhat coherent. As you look at this map, this is a great depiction to see the roles within the state. And basically we have 4 categories. Commercial services, green. Corporate business is yellow, business recreation is blue, and recreation local is red. So red is your smallest airports. That's the type of airports those are. And then up from that is blue, then yellow, and green. You guys at Aiken Regional Airport are corporate business. That's how we have you categorized here in South Carolina. That's the second tier of airport, and that is the highest tier that you will be as a general aviation airport within the state of South Carolina. You can look around you and you can see Edgefield, Saluda, McCormick, Lexington County, Barnwell, Bamberg, all of those that are immediately around you, and you can see that you have the highest role within this region of the state. What does that mean for roles for you? So often, I answer to an 8-member commission. You've already referenced Mr. Bud Coward, who's here with me tonight, and you all know Bud well. Bud has had my job, so he knows the challenges that we face as a state agency, and he often gives me good direction as I interact with those that own and operate airports. I'm glad that he's here tonight to support us and to make that connection between the state and your local community here. So I'm going to show you what those roles defined are, and these are what I call the minimum standards for an airport to be in a role. And you can see there's runway length, there's width, there's lighting requirements, there's other instrumentation that needs to be out at an airport so that pilots can come and go in inclement weather. And you guys are doing well at the Aiken Regional Airport. In fact, this is the minimum standard. The next slide is actually how you're doing with that minimum standard. If you look down the center of that table on that page, and this is page 12 on my presentation, you can see the compliance column. Yes, 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 yes. There's only one little thing there that we have as no, and I will say this, that no is consistent across the state because trees grow, things happen within our approaches to our runways, and that's something that a community is going to face annually as it maintains and operates an airport. Not only do you see the compliance on this table on your scorecard, but you also see some things here that have some costs associated with them. So one of the things that we look at is runway end identifier lighting, again, approach lighting systems. We look at airport master planning. These are things that you have identified, or we have identified in our review of your airport as things that need to be updated or be brought into compliance. And they have some costs associated with them on the side. Other actions come from your capital improvement plans, which your steward's very well aware of. Every 5 years, he has to work with the FAA to identify a series of projects, capital improvements that you want to do at your airport. Those are considered on this next page. And then also we looked at pavements. We looked at the overall condition of your pavements. So this is a big part, obviously, of an airport. You wouldn't have an airport if you didn't have that piece of pavement or that grass cut, for airplanes to come and go on. And some of our airports do have grass runways. So fortunately for you all, your economic impact's far greater because you've got great pavements and you've got nice length and width of pavements. But as we look at the estimated costs for your pavement to keep them up to a standard, and we look at your capital improvements, we have identified $11 million worth of work over the next 5 years that you could do. Doesn't mean you're going to do it. You could do it. In summary, I'm going to make this brief and take any questions you have. The question I'm often faced with is airport worth the investment? And for you all here in Aiken, it's no doubt a resounding yes, it is. You have nearly $25 million a year that comes into your community by way of the airport, again, in or through your airport. We have one of our airports in the state of South Carolina that their annual economic impact is $95,000. $95,000. That's not counting the staff that they pay to oversee airport and things like that, maintenance at the airport. So you ask those questions, is it worth it? For Aiken County, resounding yes. So again, we look at return on investment. Return on investment, you can make numbers say anything you want them to say. And I will say that this report was definitely not, it can be taken any direction. You can say, James, there's missing pieces out of this report. There's things that are askew in this report. But again, standard methodology, nationally accepted methodology. We looked across the country. We looked at that in-plan model, and that's what helped us come up with this. Basically, long story short, your return on investment's over 1,000%. So you consider what investment, again, from that scorecard, those 5-year capital investments, those pavement investments, those other things that you need to get up to a certain classification on your scorecard to bring those up to date. You look at that investment over the next 5 years, figure it out with your annual return on the money that comes into your community, that $25 million, and you look to do the math, it's over 1,000% annually return on investment. So the question is, how can you sustain that? And that brings me to my last slide. Continue to support your local airport. You all are doing a great job with this. You've got good people that are on your airport commission. You've got a great FBO out at your airport, a fixed space operator, a person that provides services to those that come and go from your community. I see airports every day, all day, and you've got a great facility that is managed well. It is people that come to your community are greeted with enthusiasm, with kindness, and that keeps them coming back to your community. So how do you continue to grow? Continue to support those customers and those businesses that you have out there. Continue to build hangars, so expand the opportunities that you have to house hangars or to house aircraft in your community. You all don't get the sales tax or the property tax that's paid, right? It goes to Aiken County. You don't get any of that. But you own and operate an airport, and you do have people that come to your community through your airport. It is a big investment, yes. It does cost a lot to maintain, but the return on investment is huge. I would say, finally, protect that investment. So we have an issue that's come up in the past probably 2 months, and Joy and the staff at the airport have helped us out, and that's a crane that came up in the approach. Well, those things happen. So how do you take care of that? Well, you're proactive. You go work with the neighbor and you figure out how to remedy the problem. You've done that. I drove out there tonight before I came to the airport and looked at it, and I didn't see it out there, so I'll applaud you for that. But my encouragement to you is continue what you're doing. Continue to support the airport in the ways that you have been doing. Make sure those dollars are there to match those funds, because you can't get any better 90 cents on the dollar, actually 95, because you're getting 90 cents from the federal government, 5 cents from the state. You've got 5 cents locally you put into it. There's no better return on investment when it comes to infrastructure. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. We appreciate you. Hey, first of all, we appreciate you coming down and being with us tonight. Are there any comments or questions from council?
Just want to know if you have any ideas how we can get some of that money the county is getting.
That might be a loaded
I think
question.
the first idea I would have is just figure out how you can sit down across the table and start to have the discussion.
Yes.
And I don't know if that discussion's taken place. I'm sure it has, but start the conversation.
Thank you.
Out of the, what is it, whatever, 23 corporate airports in the state or so, how do we rank in that area?
Ed, I would have to look at the overall state results and see, but I can get that to you if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thanks.
Yep.
One of the biggest questions that I always get regarding our airport is how do we afford it? And I'm so glad you mentioned the funding that we receive specifically from the FAA being as much as it is, about 90% of it, correct? Is that
That's
right?
correct.
And that's important for the community to hear, that we get significant funding, and that's something we should be very thankful for.
Yeah, and that funding, at least from the state, has been a challenge the past few years. We obviously have limitations like you do within your local community here and the dollars that you have. So we have to spread those dollars as far as we can. So we encourage all of our airports to go after those federal dollars, because that saves you and I both a lot of money.
All right.
Thank you very much.
And I would like to add, Mr. Mayor, this study was, the cost was borne by the State Aeronautics Commission. We received a study that if we would have done it ourselves would have been easily tens of thousands of dollars. And the State Aeronautics Commission did this through a firm, and we provided a lot of information, but we, I think, got a lot of valuable information out of it.
Thank you, and I'd also like to just echo, thank you for I know several of our aviation commissioners are here, the chairman, and I think Stuart and I were just talking, didn't seem earlier, but I believe our FBO is here. Mike, thank you for being with us tonight and the fine job you do. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The room is certainly weighed heavy to the right tonight, isn't it? Now, our next presentation is by Tony Ateca and Kathy Traver for Aiken Performing Arts. Good evening, if y'all guys would like to come up.
Tony Ateca, 1063 Kismet Drive. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and distinguished council, I want to thank you this evening for giving us the opportunity to remind you who we are and to thank you, express our gratitude for what you do to support the arts in general in the city of Aiken, but particularly Aiken Performing Arts. It was about 14 years ago that the city entered into a memorandum of understanding with Aiken Performing Arts, which at that time consisted of a group of people, mostly from northern metropolitan areas, who are used to a high-quality performing arts and who were used to being connected with culture and wanted to have that experience in their beautiful town of Aiken. And so it has been our mission since that time to bring performing arts artists who are talented and can entertain. And we have brought those high-quality performers from as far as China, Spain, England, Ireland, Las Vegas, New York, to name a few of the cities that have contributed to the entertainment that's provided here in Aiken. The other part of our mission, in addition to bringing the quality entertainment to our citizens, is to touch students. And we go into the public schools 4 or 5 times a year or bring students to the Aiken Community Playhouse and give them an opportunity to connect with culture and to actually have a one-on-one experience with the entertainers. We also have the program called Instruments in Your Attic, where we collect instruments throughout the county, and we refurbish those and then donate them back to the schools. And then this year, because we have been so blessed with the success of our shows, we're also able to partner with the Aiken Arts Center in order to support a special summer camp for kids with traumatic brain injuries. So we like to think that we're touching a lot of parts of the community that don't have an opportunity to really benefit from the arts. The way that you have connected with us is that you provide us an office. We have one part-time employee, Kathy Travers. She's with us here tonight, and she does an awesome job. She works 20 hours a week, or she gets paid 20 hours a week. And probably the Department of Labor would not be happy if they knew how much she actually works for us. But she does a fantastic job. The rest of our board is made up of volunteers, and we have approximately anywhere between a dozen and 18 board members. Our Vice President, Steve Salzman, is also with us today. So you provide an office for us. You help with transportation of our entertainers, and you help us sell the tickets at the box office. Vivian does a great job for us, and she's a city employee. And then you also help us with ATEX dollars. We compete every year for ATEX dollars, and we've been very fortunate to receive those grants. Our seasons have, particularly in the last couple of years, have been fantastic. We sold out. We have 5 shows each year. Usually that's 10 performances, because we do our performances on Thursday night and Friday night. We sold out 9 of those performances last year and nearly sold out the 10th. This year, the theater seats 315 if we fill the balcony. And this year, we have already sold about 370 tickets. And so we've sold more than half our shows or seats, and our first show isn't until September. So we're having fantastic success. We're very thankful that you have been a significant part of that. And we're going to show you our little promo, and then if you would indulge us to give tickets away just to the lucky winner in your council chambers today. So let me show.
To share music that has influenced many generations and music that can be enjoyed by all ages.
this season is Shake, Rattle, and Soul. I hope you saw some things that you like there. It's a tribute season to many of your favorite songs, I think in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Kathy, would you come up for a second? And we're going to break decorum, if it's all right, here for a second. If you're interested in getting a set of tickets, would you walk out into the aisle? Some participation here. Come on. Oh, come on. Nobody wants to take tickets home to their spouse.
No fair.
Come on. You get to pick the show you want.
If they're not asking, I'll go.
All right. All right, so in honor of our partnership and all great partnerships, Kathy is going to toss her little bouquet across get some tickets, right? Have you ever done this before? No, okay, he's never done it before.
Wait.
All right, go ahead, Kathy.
Wait a minute, Kathy. Are we not eligible?
Oh, come on. All right, now that's a spirit.
I'm gonna try to catch it, eh? I'll go stand there, especially after watching the baseball.
One thing I did forget to say is that we also benefit from many corporate sponsors, Security Federal Bank, Bridgestone Firestone, AECOM, Jackson Hewitt, and BWXT, and then many, many others who, like Atlantic Broadband, who provide gifts in kind. So, all right, so let's do it. They need to get on with their meeting. Thank you, Kathy.
Ready? Oh, gosh.
You spell the word fix.
No one else even tried. She can stay with 5 feet closer.
Big. How do you spell that? All right. Fix? She's taking me with her, so that's part of the deal.
You can go.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation, and I appreciate y'all being here with us. I'm pretty sure that's the first in an Aiken City Council meeting, so there's that. And I'm sure Councilwoman Diggs will be filling out an ethics form on those tickets.
It depends on how much of the tickets worth.
Moving on.
In all honesty, thank you for what Aiken Performing Arts brings to our city, and they all look like very fun shows, and hope we can make at least some of those to support it. So thank you very much. All right, let's get this train back on the rails. Moving down old business number 1, this is a discussion of appointments to various city boards, commissions, and committees. I will recognize Stuart Beedenball.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have no pending vacancies or appointments, I should say, for council consideration tonight, but certainly we'll accept any nominations.
Okay, thank you. Are there any nominations to be considered at our next public meeting?
I have some reappointments.
Okay, very good.
For the Arts Commission, Jack Benjamin. Building Code Appeals, Timothy Red. Housing Authority, Nathaniel Dix.
Very good. Thank you, Councilwoman Diggs. Any other names to be presented at this time?
What was this one for?
That is what they received of the web. It's just for your information.
Okay.
People indicate that they want to serve on a board or commission, so they send their background
But we're
information.
not voting on this person.
No, that's-
I've done
For
this
information.
before, yes.
That's a candidate if you would want to choose him or her.
Hearing no other nominations at this time, those names move forward will be on our next agenda for consideration. Thank you. Moving down, old business to number 2, this is second reading and public hearing of an ordinance
Yes, yeah, okay.
to amend the FY 2017-18 budget regarding the purchase of land for a walking track around the Aiken Mall. By title, this is an ordinance amending the budget of the City of Aiken for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2018. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Thank you, Councilwoman Diggs, for a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Jericho. Comments from staff?
Mr. Mayor, we, as part of the special source revenue credit agreement that the council agreed to in January 22nd, we committed to purchasing the property for a walking track around the mall. And what this is a second reading of an ordinance to amend the budget to properly account for the money, the various accounts. One question that came up at the last meeting was how large the walking track is, and it is about 94/100ths of a mile in circumference. So for second reading and council's consideration is an ordinance to amend the budget to accomplish this purchase per the terms of that special source revenue credit agreement we approved in January.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Beedenbaugh. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Comments from council?
Just to note that we'll hopefully get repayment of this money
That's right.
in
Correct.
the long term.
Yes.
Fine. Very good. All right, all those in favor on second reading? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving down old business to number 3. This is a second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to set the millage rate for fiscal year 2018-19 by title, an ordinance to provide for the levy of taxes for ordinary city purposes in the city of Aiken for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018, set the millage at 62 mills, and to provide for the expenditures thereof. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Gerardo, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Diggs. Comments from staff?
Thank you, Mayor. We have tonight a proposal for the millage rate for the fiscal year 2018-19 budget. We are required to have two separate ordinances, one for the millage and one for the budget. And we presented a budget with holding the millage rate steady at 62 mills. We have not had a millage increase since 1989, and that is before council tonight, a second reading of an ordinance to for the millage, to set the millage rate at 62 mills for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from the audience? Comments from council? Okay, all those on second reading to set the millage rate for the fiscal year 2018-19? Okay. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving down to item 4 on the agenda under old business. This is second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to adopt a budget for fiscal year 2018-19. By title, an ordinance adopting a budget proposed by the city manager containing estimates of proposed revenues and expenditures by the city of Aiken for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2019, and declaring that it shall constitute the budget of the city of Aiken. Is there a motion?
So, Mr. Mayor, that we adopt this budget for the fiscal year 2018 to 2019.
Thank you, Councilwoman Price. Thank you, Councilman DeWar. Comments from staff?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I read the budget message into the record May the 14th, and I will not do that again unless there is consideration to do so. But essentially, we do have a second reading of a budget that we, at the millage rate just approved. Council, we did account for the water and sewer rate increase that was considered and passed by council at the last meeting, and that has been reflected in this budget. And it also, we believe, includes the priorities of staff, of council, to allow for example, addressing issues with property maintenance and depreciation of our water and sewer system and numerous other things that we've discussed in work sessions and at first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Beedenbaugh. Any comments from the audience? Comments from council?
Have we submitted this budget for an evaluation of an award similar to what we received last year?
We will, pending passage of second reading, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? I would just like to, we said in the work session, but I would like to thank Stuart Beanball, Kim Abney, in Finance, and all of her team that worked on this, as well as our department heads. They certainly presented a great budget to us and spent a lot of time with council. I also would like to say how appreciative I am that this council really looked in, drilled deeper into this budget, and I think it was a good process and is a better budget because of it. So with that, I will call for the question, and all those in favor of this budget on second reading? And that's unanimous. Moving down, old business, item number 5. This is a second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to sell property on Stewart Drive in Governor Aiken Park. By title, an ordinance approving the sale of a lot on Stewart Drive in Governor Aiken Park subdivision. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Girardeau, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Diggs. Comments by staff?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Some time back, it's probably been almost 2 years ago, we were given, we had some meetings with us when council had subcommittees about city-owned property, and we have begun in earnest attempting to sell property that we have been holding that are unimproved. We have a number of unimproved lots in the city, and we worked with realtors from Coldwell Banker and Concierge on a little pilot project, and they are bringing tonight, and John Lamprecht, the realtor from Concierge, is here, a cash offer to sell a vacant lot of approximately 2/10 of an acre for $8,000. This money will net any net proceeds we're going to recommend that we put into our fund for our demolition and lot cleanup, which we know is something that council feels very strongly about, and this gives us some extra money to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Beanball. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Comments or questions from council? Okay, all those in favor on second reading? That's unanimous. Thank you. Moving down, old business, item number 6. This is a second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to sell property located in the Edgewood subdivision to Aiken Group LLC. By title, an ordinance approving the sale of 9 lots on Kershaw and Saluda Street in the Edgewood subdivision. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Girardeau? Second by Councilman Waltz. Thank you. Comments from staff?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. We do have an offer, a cash offer of $48,000 to sell this property in the Edgewood subdivision to the Aiken Group LLC. They have offered to purchase this property, and we considered this on first reading on May the 14th. Again, as with the prior parcel that council just approved the sale of, we will recommend that any of the net proceeds go also into that fund for lot cleanup and primarily building demolition.
And if I'm not mistaken, is this the one Councilwoman Price has recused herself?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Price has recused herself due to a member of her immediate family as part of the Aiken Group LLC. So by law, she must recuse herself and leave the room and not participate.
Very good. Just wanted to point that out, so thank you. Any comments from the audience? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Dexter Price, 539 Marlborough Street, Aiken, South Carolina tonight. Well, you got all that. Essentially, I want to note that we are called Dev Aiken LLC, DBA, the Aiken Group. Just want to notate that. So that's DEV Aiken LLC.
Well, we will amend the necessary paperwork for closing for that. So DEB Aiken LLC?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
All right, well,
Dexter.
thank you, guys.
Wait,
Appreciate it.
Dexter, can you tell us what you're going to put on those lots?
Our goal is to start building single-family residential units. We're going to go for affordable housing for young families, so we're going to try to market to teachers, police officers, just young families in general in the Edgewood community.
Excellent.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you have several of your partners here with you, if I'm
Yes,
not mistaken.
We've got Antoine Peterson here, Lorenzo Zignago. We also have J. Dean Gaskins and Will DeRed as members of our team as well. And thank you to John. So,
Absolutely.
very cool.
Very good. Thank you for your investment in our city.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dexter.
Any other comments from the audience? Comments or questions from council?
It's a great move. These vacant lots that we own don't need to be just sitting there doing nothing, and these guys are doing us a good service.
Absolutely.
And I might add too, once it sells, we will not have to maintain them either, which has a little bit of cost as well.
Another tractor.
Very good. Okay, all those in favor on second reading? And that's unanimous. With the noted abstention. Thank you, and congratulations. Okay, moving down the agenda.
Comes back in.
Did you get Ms. Price? You saw Ms. Price?
She will return.
All right. We'll move on. She'll be back in. Number 7, this is a second reading and public hearing of an ordinance amending Section 8-19 of the City Code regarding tethering of dogs by title, and ordinance amending Section 8-19 of the Aiken City Code. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Waltz. Comments from staff?
Mr. Mayor, in March, on the 26th, we had first reading of an ordinance for tethering of animals, amending City Code Section 8-19, and it was very similar to the county's tethering ordinance with some difference. The primary differences were, at that time, the county's tethering ordinance had a time limit of 4 hours. We, at that time, put in 13 hours. The county ordinance did not recognize severe weather conditions, and our ordinance does. And also, the city's ordinance does not address multiple dogs. We also added a section regarding the leaving of animals in closed-up motor vehicles during times of extreme heat or extreme cold. At first reading, we were asked to reach out to Dr. Patricia Hill, a past president of the South Carolina Veterinary Association, for reviewing of the ordinance. We had exchanged some emails and telephone conversation with Dr. Hill, and the only suggestion that was made was that we eliminate the time limit due to the difficulty of the enforcement, but she was comfortable with the rest of the ordinance. We've worked on this with Barbara Nelson at the SPCA, Public Safety, and the city attorney. The proposed, back at second reading, we would propose an amendment to reduce or to eliminate the time limit specified, and otherwise leave the ordinance as written at first reading with that one exception.
And just to clarify, the motion in the second was actually made on an amended version of the ordinance. with those
Correct.
changes,
That is correct, yes.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Beanbaum. Any comments from the audience? Okay, comments from council?
This was the last one.
Barbara, are you okay with this?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor on second reading of the amendment regarding tethering of dogs? And that's unanimous. Thank you. I was very proud when our county passed their tethering ordinance. I thought it was very progressive, and I'm very happy tonight that we have followed suit with our own tethering ordinance.
Well, it gives us the capability of dealing with violators or people who mistreat the animals, but it's a challenge to enforcement, that's for sure.
All right, moving down to the new business section of our agenda. Number 1 under new business is a first reading of an ordinance to annex property at 101 Marvin Drive and zone it RS-10 residential single family. By title, an ordinance to annex to the corporate limits of the city of Aiken certain property located at 101 Marvin Drive and to zone the same residential single family RS-10. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Duar. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. Comments from staff?
Mr. Mayor, pursuant to our water and sewer policy, the property owner at 101 Marvin Drive has asked for annexation into the city limits of Aiken. The Planning Commission reviewed this request at their May 15th meeting and unanimously recommended that the property be annexed and zoned RS-10. So we have this request before you tonight for first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Beanbaugh. Any comments from the audience? Comments from council? Okay, all those in favor of this annexation on first reading? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving down, new business. Number 2, this is a first reading of an ordinance to sell lots in Tool Hill. By title, an ordinance approving the sale of 5 properties. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Girardeau. I had seconds all over the house. I heard Ms. Diggs first. So, thank you. And comments from staff?
Mr. Mayor, AEI Jordan LLC, of which Principal Sean Alford, and that's Dr. Sean Alford, reached out to me about a month ago, and again, as part of our effort to remove property off or get it back on the tax rolls, we have 4 contiguous vacant lots at the corner, beginning at on Edgefield Avenue between Morgan Street and McCormick Street, as well as 1 lot on Cox, and initially offered $10,000, and we countered at 15 and met at 12.5. This property would be a cash transaction if approved at second reading, but we bring this before you tonight for first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Beaton. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Comments or questions from council? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of first reading of selling the lots in Tool Hill, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving down the agenda to petitions and requests. Number 1 is a request for approval of resolution for city water and sanitary sewer services to 1401 Chucker Creek Road. By title, a resolution authorizing the provision of water and sanitary sewer services to property located at 1401 Chucker Creek Road. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Dewar. Thank you, Councilman Waltz. Comments from staff?
Mr. Mayor, the property owner, J&M Properties LLC, is requesting city services, including water and sanitary sewer service for 1401 Chucker Creek Road. It is currently undeveloped property that is not contiguous to the city. However, it is not eligible for annexation at this time. However, they will sign paperwork to become in the city when it becomes contiguous. The Planning Commission reviewed this request at their May 15th, 2018 meeting and approved this request by a vote of 5-1 with 1 member absent. and one member opposed. There are several conditions for this that I will briefly read into the record. Again, that they will annex upon contiguity to the city within 90 days, that an executed agreement for city services be recorded at the RMC office within 90 days of city council approval, that the city engineer approve the design of the water and sewer service, that their site and landscape plan complies with our tree preservation and landscaping requirements of our zoning ordinance, that the site landscape plan also complies with our open space requirement of the zoning ordinance, that any freestanding signage be limited to a maximum height of 6 feet and no more than 32 square feet in area, and that the site design include a road stub out to the adjacent parcel fronting Whiskey Road, and that all utility wiring, new wiring, be underground. And we have this before council's consideration tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Beanbaugh. I'll open it up for comments from staff at this time. Staff, excuse me. I looked out audience. Good evening, Mark.
I'm Mark Graham, representing J&M Properties. I'd like to just make a couple of comments. We did change our plan to allow an area where we could access the commercial property with some kind of tie-in if that's necessary. We would not want to tie that down right now. In your agenda, you have a plan that shows where we flip the cul-de-sac and have open space adjacent to the commercial property out on Whiskey Road. We have a little bit of a problem with tying it, making a road go through there, because the roads in the townhomes have to remain private property owned by the homeowners association. But we do see a need for people in the subdivision have access to that commercial. So I would ask you not to require it to be a road, but whatever y'all want, we will abide by, of course.
So Mark, what are you suggesting instead of?
Instead of an actual road, just a road access into the back of the commercial property whenever it's developed. Because we don't know when it's going to be developed or what that development would look like. So, we can provide an access to it. We would prefer that be for the people in this subdivision, not for people to cut through off of Chucker Creek Road, since the roads have to be maintained by the homeowners association.
So planning required a stub out, correct?
Well, yes.
Asked for a stub out.
Yeah, it did. There was a recommendation by the planning director, and the planning commission recommended it to y'all.
I think the problem I'm having with this is we're asking them to stub out to a piece of property they don't own. And we don't know what's going to go there. And to make them bear the cost of building the stub out this time, if they're willing to connect to it should that happen, I don't have a problem there. But right now we're asking them to build something, they could build it, be in the wrong place.
Might be better to deal with this issue when the commercial property gets developed.
Right. I mean, when it happens, then it can happen, but just to build a stub out.
Right. We've actually left an area there to do that, but we don't know how the commercial people would want us to tie into their property.
They might not.
Or what the city council may require them to do. Right. Because they would have to annex, they're already contiguous, and then we would have to annex also.
I can't see us requiring them to go into your property when the city doesn't maintain it.
Right.
Not only that, why do we need another access point on Whiskey Road?
Right.
This size.
And I don't know that I'd want to cut through.
It'd be a cut through. People would be cutting off, actually coming down Chucker Creek, turning through the subdivision and going out to Whiskey Road is what would end up happening a lot.
Mark, thank you. I'm going to ask you to stay close, but I'm going to ask our planning director to come up at this time. So. Good evening.
Council.
the request for the stub out, were we directing exactly where it was to go?
We were not. Because this property is coming first, and we know that the other property may eventually develop in the future, this could dictate where that is. They would be required, what we're calling the commercial property would be required to go through a similar process of showing a concept plan at the point it would come to city council for services or for annexation. And so that could be coordinated at that time. The benefit of the stub out is a couple of things. One, you kind of have a fair stretch of road. Normally, we like to interconnect subdivisions for connectivity purposes, keep people out of the major streets if possible, if they have alternate access points. As the representative stated, these are private roads or planned to be private roads. We understand that, stub outs to each adjacent property may not be pertinent, but there's a fairly long stretch for emergency vehicles to get back there. It'd be nice to have a backfire and public safety access at some point in the backside of that. Also would create some pedestrian connection from that property into potential commercial development, negating some of the traffic that would have to go out onto Chucker Creek around and onto Whiskey Road to access any commercial that would develop there in the future. That's at least our thoughts as a staff.
Ron, was there any discussion about possible additional traffic through the residential area as a cut through?
There was at some point, that was brought up as part of the Planning Commission consideration, and they were concerned about that, especially if they were going to be private streets, that we would not want the cut through. So it would be up to the applicant if they wanted to, basically have a fire crash gate or something like that to prevent cut through. Being a private road, they would have ability to do that, and I think we could work with them to do that as well.
Any other questions for?
I would wonder, I mean, if in the future, let's say there's a shopping center developed there, just if they want to have access to it, make it a gated access for them to come in and out, so it wouldn't become a cut road, we could allow that too, right?
Correct.
But right now, we just don't know what's going to go back there.
Correct, we don't, but at this point, this is the application that's in front of you, so we wouldn't have the ability to come back to this development and request it retroactively.
Right,
So,
and they've already said they'd build it, so.
right, so they have the benefit of being in first, and so if they would provide that connection, they can, to some extent, have first choice about where that might be on their property. And typically, these are easier to coordinate on a commercial property if it is commercial property, because you're talking generally back of house for deliveries and things like that of commercial properties around the backside. So there are different options that they could use to address that, different locations on their plans.
Wouldn't you agree that we don't need another road going into Whiskey Road as some sort of stub out?
It's very likely that commercial property would have some Whiskey Road access at some point.
Well,
It's got
of
a large
course,
enough stretch.
in that particular case, but right now.
Right,
it makes.
but yeah, I don't think staff ever really wanted necessarily full vehicular access at that point. It's more emergency access and a reasonable pedestrian connection, something service-oriented were to go there that the neighborhood could access easier.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Mark, if you wouldn't mind coming back up.
And, this is Section 2, so it's not something we would build first. But even when we build Section 2, if there's no proposed commercial property, commercial development going on, then we would just like to be able to wait until we could coordinate with the commercial development on where to put it. I mean, we don't, even if it's a crash gate, which it would be the best thing.
A crash gate would certainly suit you better,
It
wouldn't it?
would suit us better, because it would be something that would give us an extra way for a fire truck or services to get in, and an extra way for service to get into the commercial coming in behind the buildings, which would be good. We don't have a problem with that. The through road we had a little problem with, but the crash gate we don't have a problem with.
Do we need to amend this to represent that? If we choose to do it,
Yes.
And I guess it would be worded to be determined at a later date as contiguous
Where it would
property
be
develops.
located. Right, where it would be located.
I think we can let
We
Mr.
don't
Bland
know.
give us the right wording on that, I guess.
All right.
Any other question?
No, I don't have anyone else on council.
I just want to add that I know that Jerry's been waiting for this for a while, so. I just stated that I know you've been waiting for this for a while, so I'm glad I know that you're happy to see it moving along.
We want to amend number 7.
Right.
Be done over
Mark, this is 88 units, right? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Okay, any other comments from the audience? Any other comments from council? Okay, at this time, I would ask if anyone would like to make a motion to amend
Since it was
I'll
my
make a
motion.
resolution
To amend the motion?
to, and I'm going to read this the best I can, he's writing it up now, to amend it that there would be a fire access through a crash gate to be determined at a later date as adjoining properties develop.
That's,
Everybody on board with that? Yeah, okay.
sounds good
So I got-
for me.
That's exactly what my motion was.
Okay. So that amendment was made by Councilman Waltz, seconded by,
I think it was vice
Councilman
versa,
Jordan.
but.
okay, very good. Good. So just to read it into the record, to read this into the record one more time,
With Sarah,
yeah.
Who made the motion, Sarah?
who'd you have make the motion? She can't read her shorthand.
He did.
Yeah, I thought I made the motion.
Mr. Waltz seconded it.
Yes.
So they're amending theirs to.
Number 7, the condition number 7 is being amended to read something to the effect that as adjacent properties at a later date are developed, the site design include fire access through a crash gate.
I'll accept the amendment.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the motion as amended, raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Sorry, I tried to read the motion.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Stuart. Going down petitions and requests, number 2, this is an approval of a resolution to proceed with Phase 1 of the University Parkway widening project. By title, a resolution authorizing the City of Aiken to commence construction of University Parkway Phase 1. Is there a motion?
I so moved.
Okay, Councilman Diggs.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Price made the second. Comments from staff?
Mr. Mayor, in November 2010, the voters approved as part of capital project sales tax $6 million for the University Parkway widening project, $3 million from the city, $3 million from the county. We then secured funding from the State Transportation Infrastructure Bank, and ultimately signed an agreement in early 2015 for $4.6 million from the State Transportation Infrastructure Bank. Then we subsequently, we have a balance of the project of slightly less than $10.6 million, as we've spent a little bit of our $3 million, $337,000, or we've spent a portion of it. And the county still has their entire allotment of $3 million. We have, in this infrastructure bank, has $4.6 million. In March 2017, City Council, we put the project on hold, and so as we send reports to the Infrastructure Bank, they still have this as an active project. So we sort of are at the point where we either need to approve the resolution to allow us to proceed with this project, and we want to emphasize that initially the project was going to be the widening of the entirety of University Parkway from Richland Avenue West to the Robert M. Bell Parkway and terminate directly across from Trolley Run Station. However, as the cost escalates, we cannot complete the entirety of the project, but there are 2 phases to the project. We believe we have enough money in hand based on cost estimates, very conservative cost escalation and contingency to where we can complete Phase 1 within the budget. Again, it does not address the 2 left turning lanes off of Richland Avenue, which DOT may require, but it does do the road widening from Richland Avenue West to Medical Park Drive, which is in the middle of where the Aiken Regional Medical Center and USC Aiken is. So we have this resolution so we can proceed and release our construction engineer or civil engineer Rick Toole on proceeding with this project.
Very good. And I think the contingency is what, 1.3 was up?
Yes, it's a little over 1.3 million.
Okay, very good. All righty. Any comments from the audience? And we welcome our Chancellor of USC Aiken with us tonight, Chancellor Sandra Jordan. Good evening, Chancellor.
Thank you. Good evening. 145 Aberdeen in the city limits. Honorable Mayor and esteemed council members, I'm here to urge you to move this project forward. Not only will this decrease the fender benders we see as people are turning right and left off of that road where there's a second lane that runs out mysteriously right at our campus, but it would also add in the appearance to the approach to the university, which is going to help me when I'm recruiting students and bringing them in and they're weighing various campuses. We are so proud to be both partially in the city and partially in the county, walking that line and acting as a bridge between the two. We're also proud of our partnership with the city, and we have done a great deal with the city over the past decades. In addition to producing workforce and addressing the needs of this community's businesses and industries, by the way, 3 brand new degrees last week approved, including cybersecurity, which will help us take advantage of what's happening in Augusta and move that opportunity into Aiken as well. I don't think anyone sitting on the council is at a loss in understanding the impact that the university has on Aiken, both of the quality of life, bringing people in for NCAA tournaments and games, the support of the arts, education, which we provide from newborns all the way through retirement for our community members. Events such as we created and sponsored the MLK event in this community. Now we do it in conjunction with the Aiken Technical College as well, Oktoberfest and Mardi Gras were partnerships with the university. The arts, the theater events, the thought leaders we bring to this community to enrich the quality of life. Of course, we're the sponsor for the Aiken Orchestra as well, and many, many events on our campus. So we are thrilled to be that partner with the city, and we hope the city is also thrilled to partner with us. This is something that we really desire to have happen, and we know that it will make a great improvement in both safety and approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan.
Any other comments from the audience? I would just comment that I was also received a text from Matt, is it Merrifield, who's the interim administrator at the hospital, who's very much in favor of this project as well. All right, comments from council.
Dr. Jordan, I just want to reiterate, since this is in the district that I represent, how important it is for us to complete this project, not just one phase and 20 years later get to the other phase, but let's do it at some point in time, in a reasonable time, right. And certainly this is a first start with this approach. And I know that you know the decision makers in the state in terms of those turning lanes and what's required and who to connect with. And I'm sure you and your your campus officials in the official capacity, we're working with that, but also working in conjunction with the hospital as well. Because you mentioned safety, and safety is imperative when it comes to our children walking from your campus to Walmart. Many of them do not have cars. And certainly when we heard Rick talk about a walking lane along with bicycling and so forth, those things are going to be instituted in this safety plan. So just know that we will support you in whatever way we can. So.
Councilwoman Price makes a reference, and in our work session, we were updated on this project, and that it has both bike lanes and sidewalks on both sides of the road. So it really is making a safer community. So.
Didn't we in our work session discuss that we may be required to do these turn lanes, and that could really hurt us in this project?
It was.
And that before we get started, we have to define and decide if we do have to put those turn lanes in.
We have to work with SCDOT.
Right.
Whether it was two turn lanes or one coming off of Richland.
Well, time is of the essence in terms of getting the attention of folks, and I know that our elected officials with the state is not in session, but nevertheless, the timing is of great importance to get their attention and seeing who can help us with those turning lanes. And it's all about relationships too, and determining who has relationship with whom to make sure that these things work in our favor. So.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of a resolution to proceed with Phase 1 of University Parkway widening project, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Chancellor. Moving down to petitions and requests, number 3. This is a request from Energy and Environmental Committee for banners in the downtown to promote Earth Day. We don't really have any comments from staff, do we?
No, this is for Earth Day 2019.
Thank you, Rick. Very good. Any comments from the audience? Okay. This is a group really getting ahead. They had a successful Earth Day 2019, and this is why, 18, and this is why, because they're already planning for the next one. It's a great group.
Not to mention the entertainment.
And the entertainment by Eddie G. All those in favor of approving banners for Earth Day 2019 at the appropriate time, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Moving down to number 4 under petitions and requests. This is a request for approval of memorandum of understanding with South Carolina Fire Academy. Is there a motion?
So, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all comments from staff.
Mr. Mayor, in 2014, council approved a memorandum of understanding with the Fire Academy for 3 years to use a portion of Station 5 for office space. And that MOU expires later this year. This is a new memorandum of understanding, and this time they are all going to offer free training at a value of up to $4,600 a year for our public safety personnel, and as part of this memorandum of understanding in exchange for the office space at Station 5 on Citadel Drive.
All right.
What's the value of that rent?
Pardon?
What's the value of that rent?
The value of the rent?
Space they're renting, yeah.
I don't have an answer for you, Councilman Waltz, for that, but I would say it's less than the $4,600 a year that we offer them. It's just, I guess, similar to a mutual aid agreement with a other law enforcement agency. We could certainly research that and get that for you if you like.
That's okay. I just wondered,
Yes, I would say that the value of the free training is less than if they were to pay us market value rent.
Same deal we had before?
No, this is actually better, I would say, because we are getting the free training. I believe the last MOU that we just provided them the office space.
All right, any comments from the audience? Okay, any other comments from council? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Number 5 under petitions and requests. This is a request to spend CPST 3 fund for sanitary sewer cleaning and grouting project. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Duar. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. Comments from staff?
Mr. Mayor, we did hear at the beginning of our work session an update from our consultant, Mr. Jim Shelton, or excuse me, the firm that is doing our sewer grouting project. And in order to continue this project in a timely manner, we are requesting CPST funds of up to $350,000 for staff in-house to do necessary repair work. The PowerPoint that Mr. Shelton showed the value of this is $450,000, but it did have contingency in it and was also based on contractor pricing. So we believe by doing this in-house, we can save up to, there'll be a little bit of cost savings, and it is somewhat of an educated guess that is being made. So again, we're requesting the CPST funds of up to $350,000 so we can continue doing this work expeditiously.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Biedenbaugh. Any comments from the audience? Comments from council?
I have two questions regarding CPST 3. How much money do we have left in?
In sewer, I'm going to defer.
I don't need to know, but if just get me.
Yes, we can get that, but we do have a positive, we are certainly not overspending the line item, but it is getting whittled down. And two, CPST 3 funds will stop collection April 30th, 2019, regardless of whether the referendum in November passes or not.
Good evening, Joy.
Good evening. Specifically, this fund, this line item, taking into account the Woodside and Gem Lakes grant that we just received, the Sandhurst sewer that you approved the transfer out of water for, as well as a grant reimbursement, and then the $350,000. At the end, we'll have nearly $400,000 left in the account.
Okay. And how much money have we spent on the Sand River project so far?
This project is 11 point.
It's 12.5, not to exceed that. I just wondered how much.
But I believe the project itself, with the cost, is not to exceed 12.5, but the actual construction, I believe, is like 11.6.
It is 11.6.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joy. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor of spending CPST 3 fund for sanitary sewer cleaning and grouting project? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Anything for issues and updates? I think you had a date.
I do want to, and we will publicize this through normal channels and also send you an email as well, but we have 2 meetings scheduled and and 2 events coming up. First, as part of our Richland Avenue corridor public input sessions, we have 2 scheduled for later this month. June 21st at 5:30 at the Aiken Prep campus of Meade Hall in the cafeteria, which is right there at on Barnwell Avenue. There will be a meeting to discuss the western end of that project. They will also focus on there's been some comments and questions about potentially the rezoning of Waterloo from Hain to Richland, and there will be discussion of that as well to get citizen input. Currently, most of Waterloo is unlimited professional, and there are a number of properties for sale. Then 5:30, June 26th at the Railroad Depot, we will have another public input session more for the eastern end of the Richland Avenue corridor study. or excuse me, corridor for the public input. And again, that is June 26th at 5:30. We also, July 14th, Saturday at 10 a.m., we'll have a ribbon cutting for Generations Park. And we are we'll be scheduling later this month a topping off ceremony, which they'll put the last steel beam up for the Eustis Park Community Center. So we would like to celebrate that as that project moves and is on schedule for completion in the first quarter of 2019.
All right. Very good.
What time is the July 14th event?
It starts at 9 a.m., I believe, but the ribbon cutting or the pomp and circumstance begins at 10, is what we've planned.
All right, very good. With that, before we adjourn, City Council will need to go into executive session. We'll go into executive session pursuant to Section 30-4-70A2 to receive legal advice where the legal advice relates to a pending, threatened, or potential claim or other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege, settlement of legal claims, or the position of the public agency and other adversary situations involving the assertion against the agency of a claim. Specifically, the City Council will receive legal advice regarding the possible settlement of a claim against the city. And the executive session will be in room 204. We're not anticipating any votes or action to be taken afterwards. And with that, I would need a motion to go into executive session. All right, Councilman DeWar made the motion. Is there a second?
I just want to acknowledge Courtney Pope with us, Mr. Mayor. She's been sitting.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
She's better than Gary any day.
I know.
Acknowledgement is second as well.
Second.
All right. Courtney, thank you. You've done a great job. We appreciate it. Okay, all those in favor of going into executive session? And that's unanimous. Thank you.